Welcome to this lesson on percents of change. Today we're going to talk about percents of increase and decrease. And percent change, we're going to start off with some vocab. So percent of change is the percent a quantity increases or decreases from its original amount. So we're not talking about the change, we're saying that change, what percent does that make up? And markup, when they talk about markup, markup is the difference between the selling price and the store's cost of an item. So when you purchase something at a store, that isn't how much it costs the store to purchase it. So let's say you purchased it for $12, it probably costs the store maybe $10 or so to purchase on their own. Right? When we're talking about percent of change, so what that means is we're saying the change is the part. So again, the percent is always over 100, and that's equal to the part over the whole. So the part in this case is the change, and the whole is the original amount. So whether that change is an increase or a decrease, we're saying that change, what percentage of the original price is it? Okay, so let's take a look at how we do this. So to find the percent of change, first you have to find the amount of change. So you have to find out what's the difference. The change goes in the numerator, and then the original, so that first number, or what the cost is at the beginning or initially, goes in the denominator. And we set it up as a proportion, and then we solve. So here's an example we're going to do together. The original is 85, and the new is 112. And we're looking for the percent of change. So we put the percent over 100, as usual, over the change, because we want to know what percent is the change of the original number. Okay, so the change in this case is 112 minus 85. And I'm going to get 12 minus 5 is 7. 10 minus 8 is 2. So the change is equal to 27. So I want to know what percent of 85 is 27. Okay, from here, everything is just like normal. You're just finding a percent. The difficult part is remembering that it's change over original. So in this case, I would have 85 times P is equal to 100 times 27, which is 2,700. I divide both sides by 85. And I get P is equal to, and I'm going to get 31 and this long big number, 7,059. So what we're going to do is we're going to round to the nearest percent and say that that's about 32%. So now, since we went up from 85 to 92, this would be a percent increase. And the percent increase would be about, and that's what this squiggly line here means, 32%. Right, so we're going to try two more problems here together, and then they're listed as 1 and 2 on your notes sheet. And then I have another 2 problems that we can try together that you can actually do on your own and then come back and check. And then problems 3 and 4 on the very back of your note sheet are going to be your you try problems. Okay, so the Nitos bought a house several years ago for $120,000. This year they sold it for $150,000. So we need to find the percent of increase. So we have to look at what numbers are important. So I know that 120,000 is important. 150,000 is going to be important. And my question in this case is find the percent of increase. So if I list my parts again like I did before, and I'm actually going to type them out so they look a little bit better. I have new, I have original, change, percent. Okay, so when I list these, this time I know the new cost is 150,000 because that's what they sold it for. So they bought it originally for the 120,000, but then they sold it for more. The change in this case would be 150,000 minus 120,000, which I can easily do in my head and know that it's 30,000. And then the percent is what I'm looking for. So again, we set it up as a proportion as percent over 100, which we don't know the percent. The change, remember the change is always our part. So that goes on top. So it's 30,000. And we want to know what percent that is of the original cost, which was 120,000. I get 120,000 times P is equal to what's going to end up being 3 million, because 100 times 30,000 is 3 million. And just add those two zeros to the end here. I divide both sides by 120,000. Make life a little bit easier on yourself. Every zero on bottom cancels out a zero on top. Okay. Over here I'm left with P. And I know that 300 divided by 12 gives me 25. So my percent is 25%. So it's a 25% increase on the price. So they purchased it for $120,000. The price increased by 25%, which went to a cost of $150,000. Again, if you can just rework this and remember that your change is your part and your original is your whole, you'll be in good shape. Okay, so again, now we're going to look at what happens when the price goes down. Or not even the price. In this case, we're talking about students. So we want to know, state whether the percent of change is an increase or a decrease, and find the percent of change. So we have two pieces here. Well, you can determine if it's an increase or a decrease right off the bat. So Johnson Middle School had 240 students last year. Then this year, there were 192 students. So that's going to be important because both are students. One is the original amount and one is the new amount. So the original amount is 240 and the new amount is 192. Okay, because of the fact that the number went down, the second answer, we know that it's going to be a percent decrease because our number went down. So we have to find the change, and when I do 240 minus 192, I get 48. Okay, so again, I can double check my work. 240 minus 192. 13. 10 minus 2 is 8. 13 minus 9 is 4, so I get 48. And again, I'm looking for the percent. P goes over 100. I set that up equal to the change, which is 48, over the original, which is 240. I get 4,800 is equal to 240 times P. I divide both sides by 240. When I do that, again, I can cancel out my zeros. I know 48 divided by 24 is 2, and I have that 0 left, so the answer is 20 is equal to P. So the answer to my questions is that it's a 20% decrease in the number of students. So the percentage, so they didn't drop by 20 students, it dropped by 20% of the students. Okay, so now here we have the big ones and twos, and these are the ones where if you feel comfortable and you want to try doing it on your own and coming back and checking your answers, go ahead. Otherwise, you can work through these with me. However, I am going to have you find the pieces and then come back to check your work. So first off, what I want you to do is I want everybody to find the original, the new, the change, and the percent. And then when you come back, we'll check your answers. All right, so in this case, we know that the percent is 40. We don't know the change. And we know that the original is 20. And we want to know what's the selling price. So we also don't know the new, the selling price. So here's where things change a little bit. So 40 is still going to go over 100 because that's still the percent, is equal to X because we don't know the change, because we don't know the new price, over 20. That's the original price. So the store purchases the shirts for $20 a shirt. Then they mark them up by 40%. So they find 40% of 20, and that's what's called the markup. So when I find my answer here, I'm going to have 100 times X is equal to 800. 4 times 2 is 8. 2 zeros gives me 800. I divide both sides by 100, which is nice because we know this is super simple. The zeros cancel each other out. I'm left with X is equal to 8. Now, $8 is not the new price. $8 is the markup. The markup, like we talked about previously, is how much the store raises the cost by. They want to know what's the selling price. They're not going to buy a shirt for 20 bucks and then sell it for 8. That's just bad business. So what they do is they say, okay, here's what it cost us to purchase it. The 40% markup is $8. So we're going to sell the shirt for $28. Okay, again, I want you on number 2. I want you to find your different pieces. I want you to find your new, original, change, and percent. Come back and check your answers. Okay, so the original was $84. She sold it for $100. That was the new. You don't know the change and you don't know the percent, but you can find the change by doing 100 minus 84, which is 16. Now you have to find the percent. So when you're looking for the new, if you don't know the change, you have to find the change and then use it to find the new. So sometimes you'll be looking for 2 pieces, sometimes you'll be looking for 1. It's kind of like when we talk about the tip and the total. When you find the tip, you're then able to find the total bill. Same idea, same principle. All right, so I have the percent over 100 is equal to the change, which is 16, over the original, which was 84. So I have 84 times P is equal to 1,600. I divide both sides by 84. And I'm left with P is equal to, and I get a number that's about 19 and 47 thousandths. It goes on from there. So I'm going to round it and say that P is equal to about 19%. Since the price went up, it was a 19% increase in price. All right, so I'd like you to try numbers 3 and 4 on your own, okay, and make sure that you're locating your pieces first. Remember, the change is the part, the original is the whole, and the percent is the same thing. It's always out of 100. As always, if you have any questions, please be sure to email me or write them down so we can go over them in class.